Hey folks, how's it going? I've got two articles I want to talk to you about tonight, and it's continuing a trend of deposit flight and also the U.S. debt problem that I've been talking about so much. Now, I've done two videos now so far on the deposit flight just in this year, and each one of those videos I talked about how I read an article about how there was a record amount of deposit flight that being recorded. And this is another article about the same thing. Now, this is not being covered in mainstream news. Um, CNN, Fox, NBC, what have you, none of those are really carrying this story and covering it. This article comes from the Daily Huddle. Again, links will be down in the description, or in the description. This article is titled 174 billion 303 million dollars in deposit flight hits US banks in 3 months as S&P Global declares banking industry is gradually shrinking. Let me repeat that number. I'm going to put it a little bit simpler. $174.3 billion in deposit flight hits US banks in 3 months. Now, this is new numbers out since my last video. And I'm going to go into this article now. New numbers are shedding light on the multi-billion-dollar flow of capital out of the U.S. banking system. In a new report, S&P Global says total non-brokered deposits, or funds coming mostly from retail customers, recorded their sixth consecutive quarterly decline in Q3 of this year. So 6 consecutive quarters as of the third quarter of this year. I'm willing to bet you the fourth quarter is also going to be a decline. The market intelligence firm says non-brokered retail customers, that would be you and me. The market intelligence firm says non-brokered deposits dropped from 17.430 trillion in quarter 2 to 17.256 trillion in quarter 3, representing a decrease of 174.303 billion. Specifically, S&P Global says Citibank, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and JP Morgan Chase saw at least a 2% quarterly decline. Deposits across the commercial banking industry are down about $947 billion from an all-time high of 18.203 trillion set in April of 2022. Okay, so retail non-brokered deposits, again, that's you and I, people like you and I. Deposits have dropped 174.3 billion dollars. On top of that, deposits from commercial banking industry are down 947 billion. That's a lot of money, folks. A lot of money that's no longer in the banks. Now, for people like you and me, we could expect a portion of that would be due to the fact that inflation is high, regardless of what the news says, mainstream media says about it, regardless of what Biden and his administration say about it. Inflation is nowhere near the 3, 4, or 5% that they keep claiming it's at. Whatever number it is that they're throwing out. I think we all can agree that when you go to the grocery store and when you buy certain items that are double, if not more, than what they were at this time last year, I think we can agree that inflation is way higher than what they're actually saying. And there's a reason that they keep doing that. They're trying to make it sound as if the economy is not strained as much as it is, that our economy is doing so much better than what it actually is. Because they don't want to create a panic, right? they understand what's happening, and they don't want to create a panic. They don't want people freaking out, pulling money out of the bank, because that would create bank runs, right? But this, according to this right here, I would say a portion of that is from the fact that people just don't have the money because utilities, gas, food, everything is so much more expensive now. Uh, with the exception of gas, at least in my state. Counterintuitively, you would think with the war effort, or the wars in Ukraine, the war in Israel, you would think that gas prices are going up because oil prices would be going up, and that's what I expected. However, on the contrary, at least in my state here in Georgia, gas prices are coming down, and also now that's partially due to the fact that Governor Kemp has, for I think the third month now, extended a gas tax pause, or a gas tax freeze. So right now we're not paying taxes on gas. Now that can be done because we've already paid in so much more in taxes the rest of the year that the state actually has a surplus, and that's how that's being done. But the reason this money is disappearing from the account is, again, partially because people just don't have the money, but also those that do are pulling their money out of the banks. They're either transferring them to money market accounts and investments that are safer, or they're just withdrawing them all together and transferring them into more stable, more secure, easily liquidated assets. Whatever the reason, and there could be other reasons as well, but whatever the reason, that's well over $1 trillion in money that's in deposits that's just disappeared. If you combine the retail customers and the commercial banking industry. I want to get back to the article now. To make up for the deposit outflows, the data intelligence firm says the industry is beginning to rely more on wholesale funding, which involves brokered deposits from large financial institutions. During the last year, brokered deposits plus total borrowings have more than doubled at Bank of America Corporation, Unit Bank, Bank of America North America, and Wells Fargo and Company, Unit Wells Fargo Bank. At J.P. Morgan Chase and Company, the increase is at 30.5%. Bucking the trend within the Big Four is Citigroup, with a 10.2% yearly decrease. Banks are also depending on loans and leases to shore up their balance sheet. The shift in strategy comes as the total assets held across the industry continue to drop. The transformation is taking place as the industry gradually shrinks. Total assets for U.S. commercial banks, savings and loan associations were $23.406 trillion at September 30th, representing a 0.2% decline from June 30th and a 2.4% decrease since the all-time peak in March 31st, 2022. All right, that's all of that article. That's a fairly short one. But here it is for 3 months now. They're recording more and more deposits disappearing, more and more deposit flight. Each month, that number seems to grow. That should be concerning to you. I know I recommend everybody to only keep what you absolutely have to in the bank account, but start keeping some cash at home. Partially due to the fact that you want to have something easily obtained. You don't want to have to go through a bank and explain to them why you need your money. It's your money. You shouldn't have to explain why you need it. Also, you don't want to run into a situation where your bank is shut down by the FDIC, like 5 other banks have been done this year, and then all of a sudden them tell you that, well, this time we're only going to be able to allow you to get X amount of dollars out. It doesn't matter if you have $100,000 in your account; you can only have $200 out of your account. So there are a couple of reasons there why I keep telling you to keep some cash on hand. Uh, I also recommend transferring some of that cash into hard assets that hold their value. Uh, if you can afford it, gold, silver. Some people are buying up real estate. Now is not the best time, I would think, to buy real estate. Uh, I think if you're going to go that route, what you want to do is you want to be holding cash, gold, and silver, uh, because there is a crash coming, and I do believe there's a housing market crash coming because housing prices are dropping right now. They're starting to drop now. I believe that's going to speed up. And I do believe that there's going to be a point in the very near future where uh, you're going to have the opportunity to buy real estate very cheaply uh, if you have the funds to do it. Now, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not going to go on record and say this is what you need to be doing as far as telling you how to invest your money. You have to make that decision for yourself. But this is my line of thought. This is what I'm thinking. You need to have cash. You need to have, if you want to invest it in something, uh, gold and silver is an option because they are, quite frankly, a good hedge against inflation. Uh, they hold their value, and while they do fluctuate, like similar to the stock market in ways, the value of gold has consistently gone up for years. Silver has maintained a very low price in relation to gold, and silver and gold are usually or traditionally closely tied to one another in price. Right now, we're seeing that gold is going higher and higher and higher, while, uh, with the exception of a few spikes or dips, silver is pretty much trending sideways right now. So, a lot of people believe that silver is extremely undervalued. And there's the belief that at some point in the future, here soon, uh, the value of silver could spike so that if you buy it for, say, $30 an ounce now, or $25 an ounce, or whatever the spot price plus the premium is that you pay for it, there could be a point in the near future where that price of that ounce of silver could skyrocket to or $125. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. You have to make your own judgments about your own money based on what's right for you and what you believe is going to happen. The next article I want to cover comes from Politico. Again, it's one of those things that's not really being covered well in mainstream media. In fact, I haven't actually seen this one mentioned anywhere. We've already had the United States credit rating has already been downgraded once. But there's another downgrade looming, or at least in danger of occurring. Again, this one comes from Politico. U.S. debt in danger of downgrade by Moody's as shutdown looms. The credit rating firm cited risks to the U.S. fiscal outlook, namely higher interest rates, without effective fiscal policy measures to reduce government spending or increase revenues. Now, before I get into this article, really, I want to point out that we recently had a showdown with the Republicans and the Democrats about cutting spending. serious, meaningful cuts to spending to try to rein in our budget. Uh, that's actually what led to Speaker McCarthy being removed. And I've seen not only Democrats uh, blaming Republicans for threatening to destroy our economy and shut down the government as a political weapon, but I've also seen Republican against Republican uh, do pretty much the same thing. You know, there's been a lot of infighting with the Republicans, and the simple fact is there's been very few politicians, Republican or Democrat, either one, but there's been very few Republican politicians that have been at least vocally, publicly calling for responsible fiscal responsibility. Now, you can look at Rand Paul, you can look at Matt Gaetz, you can look at a couple of others, and whether they actually believe we need fiscal responsibility or not, they're at least calling for it on the floor of the House. While at the same time you have Democrats and you have other Republicans attacking them for trying to be responsible with money, at least on the surface. Whether they intend to be genuinely sincere about their desire to be fiscally responsible or not, I can't say. I can only go by what I see on the news, what I see in the meetings or whatever. But for the most part, neither side of the aisle seems to have any desire, with the exception of two or three from appearance, have any desire to rein in this reckless spending, balance a budget, and get things under control. And when someone does speak out about trying to be fiscally responsible and try to rein in our debt, rein in our budget, and do things in a responsible way, well, they're attacked. And you would think, on a personal level, I have to manage my household finances. I have to make sure that I pay the necessary bills and buy my groceries, pay my utilities, all that stuff, just like you, before I can even consider any of the things that I want. However, our government, our politicians, seem to have a completely opposite attitude where they want everything, and it doesn't matter if we've actually got the money or not. They just don't care. It's almost like a teenager with a $50,000 credit card, and no job. They're going out to shopping malls and just spending and spending and spending, but they've got no way of paying that bill. They don't think about it because they're probably not the ones paying for it. Their parents are probably responsible for it. And we, as citizens of this country, taxpayers, we're kind of like the parents of the government. The government's spending like a reckless, irresponsible teenager, and we're getting stuck with the bill. And there's no sign of that changing anytime soon. All right, to get into this article, a lower debt rating raises the risk of higher borrowing costs for the federal government. Well, no kidding. I mean, that's no different than somebody that goes out and takes out a personal loan for $10,000, then goes out and takes another loan, and then doesn't make their payments. They start running behind on their payments on the loans. Their credit rating goes down like a rock dropped off a cliff. So naturally, the next loan they take out, if they can even get one, is going to be much more expensive. That's just common sense, folks. And that applies to governments too, not just people, not just individuals. The warning comes as the government teeters on the brink of another shutdown next week and follows a move by Fitch Rating Service just a few months ago to downgrade U.S. debt. Standard & Poor's made a similar move more than a decade ago following an 11th hour showdown over raising the debt ceiling. Deputy Treasury Secretary Wally Adeyemo blasted the move, saying the administration has demonstrated its commitment to fiscal sustainability. Okay, I'm sorry, folks, but where? Somebody please point to me where this administration has demonstrated its commitment to fiscal sustainability. When you start printing so much money and borrowing money at a rate when we're already taking spending as much on the interest for our current debt as we are on our military budget, where is this demonstration at? I've yet to see one, because all I see is print, money, charge it, basically. Charge it, we'll deal with it later. That's what happens when politicians can just press the print button anytime they want to. I'm sorry. It blasted the move, saying the administration has demonstrated its commitment to fiscal sustainability, including through the more than $1 trillion in deficit reduction included in the June debt limit deal, as well as President Biden's budget proposals that would reduce the deficit by nearly $2.5 trillion over the next decade. Oh, wow. $2.5 trillion over the next decade. Meanwhile, we're sending billions and billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars actually, to Ukraine, to Israel, to Taiwan, to all these countries that hate us. Unbelievable. The White House placed the blame firmly on the GOP. Of course. Nobody wants to be the adult and take responsibility for it. They just want to point fingers. Moody's decision to change the U.S. outlook is yet another consequence of congressional Republican extremism and dysfunction. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said in a statement. Okay, somebody tell me. Somebody explain to me how trying to be financially and fiscally responsible is extremism and dysfunction. Let me put it to you this way. If you have racked up a lot of debt in your personal life and you're trying to pay down that debt, one of the things you have to do is either increase your income or reduce your spending, or both. So how is it cutting your spending, and even potentially increasing your income to pay down your debt and balance your budget? How is that extremism? Representative Andy Harris, a Maryland Republican and a member of the House Appropriations Committee, faulted out-of-control government spending and deficits. Harris tweeted, "We cannot, in good conscience, continue writing blank checks to our federal government knowing that our children and grandchildren will be responsible for the largest debt in American history." You know, that shouldn't be a Republican or Democrat issue. It really shouldn't. Just on its face value, that one comment makes more sense than anything else I've read in this article so far. Certainly, the comment by Karine Jean-Pierre, that her statement was just asinine. There's absolutely nothing extremist or dysfunctional about trying to manage money correctly. The U.S. for now retains its AAA rating, the highest possible creditworthiness for a borrower under Moody's scale. Okay, so I thought we got downgraded to AA plus. Did I miss something here? Have I actually missed an article where our credit rating got bumped back up to AAA? Y'all let me know if I have, because I don't remember. I remember it getting downgraded to AA plus. But I don't remember it getting bumped back up. If anybody has an article or a source for that, please put it in the comments below. I would love to see that. The rating firm noted surprisingly strong economic growth in the U.S., which could slow the rise in its debt cost. Well, it could, provided we rein in our spending. But no, that's too extreme. That's dysfunctional, isn't it? The U.S.'s institutional and governance strength is also very high, supported in particular by monetary and macroeconomic policy effectiveness, it said. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me, but I think that's the exact opposite of what was being said in the article where they talked about downgrading from AAA to AA plus. That's interesting. Maybe that's just some more propaganda from the Biden administration. Maybe that's just a way of trying to spin things so it doesn't look as bad as it actually is. Because we all know politicians are bad about doing that. That's what they're doing, right? Everything you see on mainstream media is propaganda. It's it's whatever side it comes from, it's going to be spun in a way to benefit that particular side or cast that particular side in the best light. At any rate, things aren't changing, folks. And I don't see any sign that they will. The amount of money leaving deposits in the retail and commercial banking sector continues to go up. Spending continues to go up. Calls for a balanced budget. Cutting spending are viewed as extreme, irresponsible, and dysfunctional. What kind of... How did we get to this point where trying to manage money well is political extremism? It's mind-boggling, folks. All our lives we're taught, at least most of us are taught, you have to manage your money, you have to balance your checkbooks, you have to make sure you've got enough money to pay your bills, and the things that you want come after that. Your bills, your responsibilities have to come first. This is just insane. I don't know what to say, really, except this is obviously not going to change anytime soon. The question is, how long can we keep this going with this reckless spending, lack of budget cuts, lack of a balanced budget? People are pulling money out of the bank. How long can this keep going before it actually breaks and falls apart? I learned a while back that I thought it would have collapsed by now, but I learned a while back that they always manage to manipulate, twist, and shuffle things around and lie about things so much that they can actually kick the can a little bit farther down the road. But at some point, it's all going to fall apart, folks. This is not sustainable. We can't keep this up. I hope you're getting ready for it. I really do. Do what you can to prepare for it. Prep any way you can. Stack food, put money back, pay off your bills, pay off your debt. One of the worst things you can have going into something like this or going into another Great Depression is going to be large amounts of debt. Get rid of that debt as fast as possible. That is a cancer that will kill you, financially speaking. Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't. And as always, folks, stay safe, keep prepping, don't get complacent, and don't fall for all the propaganda and spin. Pay attention to what's going on. If your gut's telling you this is not sustainable, this is not right, chances are your gut is right. Because right now, I'm seeing red flags everywhere. So, that's all I've got for the night, folks. Again, I appreciate you guys watching. Until next time, folks, I'll catch you later.